So, like, way back when, like, before, when it was still seen as, like, taboo, it was just like my parents did a LGBTQ news magazine called Voice. Central Penn Voice. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so they printed it, and they did that, and then they started printing places for newspapers for New Jersey and, like, Cape May, and then they did Philadelphia and some in Pittsburgh. And, the last year that they closed, they won Newspaper of the Year. My dad won Editor of the Year. The articles they did were like they won a lawsuit with the township. Now this goes to show the political climate, but that township stopped advertising in the newspaper and instead went with this one called the Patriot, which is like the equivalent to like the Projo or like the Times of Pennsylvania. So the Patriot kind of goes everything in between. There's the Philadelphia Inquirer. Then there's Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and then there's Patriot News. So there's like three major newspapers. It's weird now recalling it because I know a lot about it. But so they went with that and then told my parents that because they report on them in a not friendly light, that they're not going to advertise. It's like, well, that's against the law. And so they took this huge case against the township, and they ended up winning in the First Amendment speech with it. Because the newspaper can print whatever it so feels.
Exactly.
And nothing that they said was false, but they just didn't like it because it offended them.
Yeah.
And if that should tell you what kind of color that town is, whether it's red or blue. It's full red. And because they didn't like the reporting of it. So it was just like, that was like their last year was just like filled with these huge battles that they kept overcoming. And this is like eventually it just became this point where when there couldn't be events and there couldn't be, there were no events, no advertising, papers shrivel up. That's like at its core. So it's like for things to be, partially closed, like no gatherings, no indoor gatherings, some outdoor gatherings, some not. Nobody's going to advertise that. They'll just go to Facebook.
Exactly.
And post these kinds of things. And so what that does is like now there's a town in Pennsylvania that doesn't have a local newspaper. So they had to rely solely on a newspaper that is owned by a conglomerate in Texas.
Yeah.
With reporters that have way too much of an area to cover.
Yeah.
And
who don't give a fuck about anything.
Well, nobody's going to give a shit about a barbecue at a firehouse.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just like, but like that's the thing.
The shit that matters.
Well, it's the shit that matters, and it's the shit that pays the bills.
Yeah.
Because those things advertise. So that inner workings, and so like so like they had a full staff. They have editors, journalists, publishers, the whole nine. My sister came on as somebody that was possibly going to be taking over the business, but that just didn't happen because there's no money coming in because of no advertising. So it's sorry to make it keep sounding so drab and everything, but
it's all good, man. It's what it is. We're sitting here in the snow, it's all cloudy and shit. Might as well get dark, So during this time, are you just working at the newspaper or are you doing anything else?
Yeah, so when I was
Heyo. We're in the restaurant right now, guys. And we're hard at work out here, all right?
Okay, so we were talking about which part?
What did you do for a job?
So it's like, as soon as my parents thought I was being a pain in the ass during the summers when school wasn't in, I would go and work at the newspaper. And then, I hated everything about it. It was, to the point where I was finding, because it's so old, so I was just find rooms and hide in and just, hang out. Because it's you're in this, cool-ass, old 1920s, room. And there's, big things of paper everywhere, big things of carpet. So I would just, hide and, just, not do, it was just, I wasn't motivated to do anything. It was just, not what I wanted to be doing. But it was, but I still worked, and, it was a paycheck that I mattered to my parents that I was doing that. So it got to the point where I was just I don't want to do this anymore. And, got heavily involved in sports for a really long time. So, it was middle school was just just do, because it became a thing where sports, I think during that time expanded upon camps and tournaments and shit like that exponentially. And so during the summers it was I had no time to work, so it just got to this thing where it was just I've got AAU, I've got to do these tournaments, I've got to do volleyball tournaments or basketball tournaments. And then it got to the point where this is college. what are we gonna do? And so I was like, well, maybe I'll get into cooking. Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And because it's like my mom and I really enjoyed cooking. Like we would go on vacations where it was like food was the focus of the vacation.
Yeah.
Like being able to do that, it was like fun. And we would always watch the Two Fat Ladies, which I don't know if you remember that
for
show.
sure.
So like we would watch that show and just like laugh, but like also it's just like so much fun. And like also like we would like every day after school, Great Chefs of the World would be on, which I'm not sure if you know that show.
No, I don't know that show.
Look up Great Chefs of the World. It was
right.
really cool. It's just like Trotter's on it. Like so all these like really well known chefs are just like kind of awkwardly like sit out with their mise en place. It was very realistic in the sense that like none of their mise en place was like
nice.
Yeah, it wasn't a cooking show. It was a show where it showed a chef cooking a dish. Yeah. And like it was fun because it was like it felt the most real. It's like some of the guys just wouldn't talk, some would. And I really liked that.
I like that.
Yeah, it was just kind of like
Be
whatever
yourself.
they wanted. Yeah, exactly. It was like, you know, more than likely the French guys didn't talk, but it was cool because they were going to France and like seeing all this stuff. It was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And so like, just like talking like with my parents, I'm like maybe culinary school. It's just like that next day I got a job at a kitchen. It was like very much like what my parents would do. It's like, oh, you want to do this? Or you're gonna fucking find out. You're gonna find out if you like it or not. And so like they got me a job at the Hilton. Which was just like, imagine like your first restaurant job is in
and it's a fucking Hilton
huge hotel.
Excuse me, I'd never cook again.
It was just like so like they put me in one of the cafeterias that nobody was in, and I just cooked chicken. But it was like at the time it was like, this is fucking awesome. Yeah. It's like I'm cooking 50 pounds of chicken tenders. Yeah. It was like, this is cool. Nobody's around. It's just like I probably who knows if like that any of that shit got cooked.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like it's going to steam tables, so it'll eventually get cooked.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
So. You know, like that, and then the next job was working at Red Robin, and like I say, like that's my first job because that was the one where it was just like I was an integral part of it, rather than so like, you know, it was bun loader dishwasher, where the dishwasher hated my guts, hated me, but bun loader I was super good at it, and it was just like just like this motion of just like bun,
load the buns,
and then you move up to the meat loader. Which is like, I don't know if anyone of your caliber you've interviewed has like worked in a restaurant like this, but it's like one of those places where it has this conveyor belt system for the charbroiler. Uh-huh. It's like what Burger King uses. But like you would have like 3 lines, and it was 2 no pinks, 1 pink for your midwells and your well dones. And so your no pink line or your 2 no pink, it sounds so gross saying pink, but that's how it was.
They must have changed it because I don't think the political climate of today would have let those names. Meat loader, bun loader, fucking, none of that will fly right now.
I mean, that's where I learned the kitchen lingo as far as insults.
Oh, for sure.
But like, it's like also the gross place where you'd like go to load up because you'd have to put chicken on there, so you just like to like save time, you'd stack them, so you'd have your burger and then your chicken overlapped on it, going through the no pink line maybe twice. And it was just like that was my initiation into that style of cooking, which is like it was whatever.
Make it happen.
Yeah, like
doesn't matter.
The one thing like I guess I could say it took away from that was just like the cleaning regiment that they would do it in, like where you'd have to take all the parts from a broiler and put them in acid baths.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like you just like wearing trash bags on one on each arm to be able to go into these acid baths to be able to do that kind of a thing. It was like this. There was a sense of cleaning because they would get inspections constantly, and this is right outside of Hershey Park, which is like any restaurant that's right outside of Hershey Park is this fucking madhouse. It's just like Disney.
Yeah, because you don't want to pay those prices, man. Those Hershey
it's
Park fucking soda prices. It's way too high, though. Way too high. I'd rather get chicken tenders down the street.
Dippin' Dots were super expensive back then, too.
Well, I was talking to one of my friends. It's like when we went to Six Flags, my mom would bring straight up a pot of rice and a pan of chicken, and she'd put it in the trunk, and we'd go into Six Flags from like maybe 10 to 2, right? Go outside, have a picnic, and did she warm it up? No. It was already warm from the trunk sweat. You know what I'm saying? So... And that's why I'm not going to get COVID. Haven't gotten it. I'm cured. That's my vaccine. Old chicken. Trunk chicken.
Trunk chicken. Six Flags meals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then from there I went to, like, the first, like, mom-and-pop Italian place that, like, my advertised with my parents. There's a lot of jobs that were because they advertised with a newspaper.
Yeah.
which I'm not sure if like my parents gave them a cheaper price if they hired me or not. They never told me if that happened or not to advertise, just to be able to put up with me. But like that was the first place where it's like I was a line cook, so I was like doing cheesesteaks and like it's like there was a very big foundation into like what I think is important for cooks is just like turn and burn shit. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of like I don't know. I don't want to sound like the guy who's like nobody's learning this way anymore. It's like no, that's. What I think is like it's important that like you work in a diner at least.
Oh, for sure.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
I think that's just like you can become anybody you want to. I think if you have that kind of background.
That kind of training, yeah.
Yeah, just because like everyone needs to know that you're the most competent cook that can be, and like,
exactly. Yeah,
I think
a diner definitely teaches you that in service and in the people that work there. Mm-hmm. So you learn how to work with alcoholics. You know, okay, shit, I got to pick up a little bit more for this guy because he's going to be slow today, or whatever the fuck the case is. You know,
well, yeah, like at Daphno's there was, at Red Robin there was, you know, they had a pretty steady flow of work release guys working there.
Yeah, for sure.
In the morning, and like you learn to keep your shit in order.
Yeah,
around guys like that because it's like you know I'm just like some white dude that's you know grown up in a middle class neighborhood and I'm going to work in mornings where I'm like I don't know how to open up like. Did you know before a restaurant how you open 5-gallon buckets of pickles with that special tool? I didn't know how to, so I'm just like in the walk-in trying to do that. And this guy's just like calling me a pussy and just like yelling at me. And it's just kind of like, oh, so you need this tool. And it's like you're able to just kind of like, and I think like sports helped with that, where you're just like able to like sift through what he's actually trying to say.
Sift through what he's trying to say. Yeah,
it's
not how I say it; it's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I read it between the lines.
Yeah. So what sports did you play?
Basketball and volleyball were the big ones, and so like that was
tall
like
as fuck. That's probably they just make you do that. It's like with me. I'm 6'2". They're like, you play basketball? It's like I'm fucking horrible. That's why I cook.
Well, like I would like had dreams like sophomore, junior years. It's like I was gonna go play basketball in college. It's like got to do it, and then I would say like by junior year, it was just kind of like I don't like this anymore. I don't love it.
Yeah,
and like then it got to the point where I was like. You know, I could go and play basketball in college, and I could go to a really good college and do this and be maybe a bench player. Because it's like, you know, it's like I grew up, like, I was in the same grade as the years of, like, LeBron and Carmelo were all in that same age group, or Jerry McNamara, who played with Carmelo, who played in Pennsylvania. And, like, that guy would light up teams for 60 points in high school.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not going to go that far. It became like, so it's like if I go to like, I don't know, University of Virginia and play basketball and not play, what kind of programs do they have at school? Like, do they have a culinary program? It's like, do college athletes go to culinary while they're going? It's like, who knows? And then it just became a shifting of priorities when it came to like.
Because, like, when you start taking cooking seriously, there's that one person that's like, hey, motherfucker, like, you either do this or you don't, you know.
And it took, like, working at a place like that also had another cook that was competent and, like, would also not be against showing you, who wasn't threatened.
Yeah, exactly.
That you were, like, going to take their job.
No,
and so...
So after Red Robin, where do you go?
There was the Italian-American place, a place called Daphno's.
Okay.
Which is just, like, cheesesteaks. They had a... not a wood-fired oven, but those wood stone ovens that you do pizzas out of. And it was just, like, the first, like, it had, like, it was a Greek owner. And, like, it also, like, in the mornings, like, his mom would come in and make the soups.
Yeah.
And, like, that was cool. And, like, she wasn't doing anything groundbreaking, but every time they were seasoned perfectly. And, like, that was, like, the first time salt was a thing. Acid was a thing. Like, timing was a thing. Like, how long things did certain things was a thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, for that to be, like it was kind of like bringing back watching the Two Fat Ladies seeing you can have that in a restaurant kitchen. You don't just have to be a scumbag to work in a restaurant.
Exactly.
And you can have both. You can be a scumbag and also be a caring person. Mm-hmm. You should know.
You all know out there.
And he, you know, just working there, and then, like, all these were, like, summer jobs, so nothing was ever more than a year at a time. So it was, like, 3 months, go back to school, 3 months, go back to school. And that continued through college, where it's, like, in college, went to go work at the Biltmore Estate, and that was just, like, a big deal for me because I know that, like, that house is big. The house is big as fuck, and that's kind of cool. And like they also like what Hannibal was filmed there, so like I knew that place. And it's like I've also like really like big into kayaking now because like it's big in my family to like outdoor activities, and